The whispers have turned into worries. The quiet has finally been broken. It was a surprise to everyone that Bishop T.D. Jakes, one of the most important spiritual leaders of our time, is getting sick. Everyone is talking about what his daughter Sarah Jakes Roberts just said though. What's going on behind the pulpit? What's the matter with the Jake family keeping things so secret? Listen up, because what we're about to say could change the way you see everything. When the name T.D. Jakes, a few things come to mind when it's brought up. Strong sermons, unwavering faith, power around the world, and an empire built on spiritual guidance. However, a new type of story has come to light. One that worries a lot of fans, friends, and people in the faith community. More noise is being made behind the scenes. The once active bishop, who was famous for his commanding stage appearance and fiery delivery, has been showing up less often, and his health has been changing in ways that can be seen. Some say it's stress, while others whisper, it's much worse. But now, his famous daughter, author and speaker Sarah Jakes Roberts, has finally spoken out, and what she said broke my heart. This week's deep dive will cover a lot of ground, from Bishop T.D. Jakes' reported health problems to Sarah's emotional outbursts and what this might mean for the Potter's house in the future. You'll find out about the family choices made behind the scenes, the small clues that many fans missed, and how the faith world is reacting. You won't believe what was going on in the background while millions of people watched his lectures online. Sarah told you the hard truth that she didn't want to say in public. You'll also learn what's really going on in Jake's family when no one is around. This is where things get touchy. Now things start to really happen. So make sure you stay with us until the end because we have one more shocking thing to say. Bishop T.D. Jakes has been a huge name in the fields of religion, motivation, and personal growth for many years. His voice has become a symbol of power, conviction, and divine knowledge, whether he's preaching to stadiums full of people or inspiring millions around the world through global broadcasts. But something has changed in the past year. People who have watched Potter's House for a long time started to notice small changes. There will be fewer live shows, shorter sermons, and a slightly less stable stance behind the stage. Some fans thought it was just getting older. Bishop Jake just turned 67 after all. Others who had been with him for years knew better though. They noticed the breaks in his speech and the times when he seemed to be working harder to say things. They also noticed that more and more guest speakers were filling in for him on Sunday mornings. Still, no comment to the public was made. But not from the church, not from T.D. Jake, and not even from his press team. It's funny how the silence was louder than any lecture. And in the digital age, where silence leads to guesswork, stories began to spread. Some people thought he was taking a break to focus on mentoring the next generation, especially his daughter Sarah Jakes Roberts, whose faith and fame have grown tremendously in recent years. Some people said that health problems were to blame, but no one could confirm it. So the pictures came next. Pictures went around the internet of a Bishop Jake who looked much thinner and more serious. Sometimes his eyes are filled with spiritual fire, but today they looked tired. Some fans went on Twitter and Instagram to say they were worried. Anyone who wrote said, "This isn't the bishop we know. There is something wrong." Someone else wrote, "Praying for T.D. Jake. He looks like he is carrying a big load." There has still been no confirmation, news release, or social media address. There has been only silence. Now though, this is where things get interesting. Inside the family, there were serious talks going on. According to people who are close to the family, not only did they talk about his health, but they also talked about the future of the Potter's house and whether it was time to give someone else spiritual power. And it's very possible that person is Sarah. Things changed, and Sarah finally spoke out because she felt like she had to. But there was something even more telling that happened behind the scenes. This is where the story really changes. Bishop T.D. Jakes' daughter Sarah Jakes Roberts has been by his side through the best and worst parts of his journey. She is more than just his kid. She is also his spiritual guide, his ministry partner, and a lot of the time his double. Sarah has gone from being a troubled teen who became famous to being one of the most important women in modern church. Sarah has become the voice of a new generation of Christians, with a church community that is bigger than her dad's and a following that spans the globe. What many people didn't see though, was the personal load she was carrying while she tried to lead others to faith. Then she finally spoke. In a recent interview, she didn't talk about her father's health directly, but she made strong hints about how hard it must be for him emotionally. Sarah's voice broke as she said, "God doesn't always show us the whole picture. Sometimes he only shows us enough to keep going, one painful step at a time." This seemed like a normal spiritual thought to many, but people who knew Jake's family well knew that those words meant something more personal and inside. It wasn't fake for her voice to sound sad, it kept them safe. She is protective of her father, his heritage, and maybe even the truth. Later in the same talk, Sarah stopped for a long time that felt awkward, then picked herself up and went on. "We've all had to wait, not just him. It hurts your feelings when someone you depend on becomes weak." That was it. Fans had been looking forward to and scared of this moment. Sarah Jake Roberts had done something more powerful without confirming specifics. She agreed that things had changed. She said that it was true that something had changed. Yes, Bishop Jake is dealing with more than what we can see on stage. The family is getting ready for what's going to happen next. Sarah's friends and family say she's been quietly stepping up, not just in ministry but also in private care. They say she's been spending more time with her father, making small changes to her schedule, and mentally getting ready for something she never thought would happen this soon. Sources say that Sarah didn't want to talk about it in public, but she knew that people were guessing. She also wanted to protect her father and his congregation, so she said just the right amount without giving away too much. And that's where it gets even more powerful. Even though she's going through a very personal time of grief, Sarah is still carrying the torch, preaching, helping others, and leading. Many people now want to know if she's ready to take over as leader. The next part of the story might answer that question, because what's going on at the Potter's house behind closed doors suggests that a change is already happening, one that has been quietly building for years. When Bishop T.D. Jake Jakes took the pulpit in the early 1990s, he wasn't just building a ministry, he was building a movement. From the small stage of the Potter's house in Dallas, Texas, to the big stage in West Virginia, Jake built a spiritual empire based on healing, empowering, and telling the truth. But empires, even divine ones, don't last forever, at least not in the same hands. For years, people have been talking about who would take over Bishop Jake's role when he retires. Many people thought the answer was clear: Sarah Jakes Roberts. But not many people knew how long this change had been going on and how quietly it had happened. Let's go back to 2017. Bishop Jake made Sarah a pastor under the Potter's House umbrella. It was a big deal, both symbolically and strategically. She had already started Woman Evolve, a ministry for modern women dealing with faith, failure, and personal growth. Her sermons went viral, and her voice resounded. She wasn't just talking to crowds, she was connecting with them. But Bishop Jake didn't stop there. Over the next few years, Sarah was slowly and purposefully given more spiritual responsibility. She began to preach more often at big conferences like Megapest, Woman Thou Art Loose, and even global summits. She worked with her father on devotionals, conferences, and media projects. Sources say that he gave her access to his core leadership team, strategists, advisors, and longtime board members in private. This wasn't just handing her tasks, it was pass-on. Now that Bishop Jake isn't as visible in public and his health is said to be getting worse every day, it's clear that this transition needs to happen right away. Members of the church have talked about small changes, like Sarah going to more high-level meetings, leading prayer services instead of her father, and even taking on pastoral counseling duties that Bishop Jake used to do himself. A member of the church staff allegedly said, "This has been going on for a while, but it's getting worse now. Everyone is mentally getting ready for it, because we know change is coming. And Sarah, she's been trained for it." But this isn't just about leadership, it's also about legacy. Bishop Jake created something that went beyond traditional church models. He made a global brand of spiritual and emotional empowerment that reached celebrities, world leaders, and regular people. It's not as easy as handing that off like a Sunday sermon, it's a generational shift. Sarah Jakes Roberts is the next chapter. She's younger, more tech-savvy, and more relatable to modern believers who feel stuck between their faith and their real life. Still, there is the question of whether or not the congregation will fully accept her, and the world will recognize her as the rightful leader. The answer may lie in what Bishop Jake plans to do next, and whether or not he will publicly support Sarah as the one to replace him before it's too late. There's a heavy feeling in the air that regulars at the Potter's house can feel, but no one dares say it out loud. Sources say that a final message is being written, and what's inside it could end the Jakes family ministry for good. Trust us, you'll want to hear it. The older members of the ministry can feel it in their bones, and the younger members can feel the change in energy. Every time Bishop T. Jakes speaks, whether in person or through a pre-recorded message, it feels like it might be the last, and people who are close to the ministry say that's not just fear, it might be true. Many people in the ministry say that Bishop Jake has started writing what they call his final message. It's not just a sermon, it's a legacy statement, a kind of farewell. It will not only talk about his life of service, but also his spiritual regrets, his declining health, and most importantly, his hopes for what comes next. Things get emotional now. The same sources say that this last message is not being prepared for a live broadcast but is being recorded privately. There are rumors that he's spending hours behind closed doors with only his most trusted camera crew, his wife Sarita, and his daughter Sarah. There will be no crowds or cameras around, just the man, the message, and the truth. Some details about the final message have been leaked, but no one has seen the script. Here's what we know. He should talk about his health in an honest way, not with sympathy. Bishop Jake has always been open about how hard leadership is on the body, especially in the last few years. But this message is said to include specifics, like how long he's been sick and hiding it, how hard it is for him to be a spiritual leader, and how he's been debating whether to finally rest.
He will talk to Sarah directly. This is the moment that could confirm everything. It's a passing of the torch. It is said that he will give her a physical object, maybe his Bible or an heirloom, that he used in his first sermons. This is meant to be a symbolic moment. He wants to challenge the next generation, telling them to carry on the work not by copying, but by creating something new, to be brave in their faith, honest and rooted in service over fame. Rather than ending a chapter, this message is meant to start a new one. But here's the shocking part. There's talk that he might not release this message right away. It's being recorded right now, just in case. Bishop Jake himself may never deliver it from the pulpit. Instead, it could be played one day when he's not there, or even after he dies. Many of his followers are heartbroken just thinking about it. Imagine sitting in the sanctuary as the screen fades in and the voice that has shaped your life for decades starts speaking for the last time after his death. Church staff say the video is being kept safe on a secure hard drive stored on the church's internal servers and is being closely watched by his close friends and family. Because this message is so important, only a few people know where it is. For Sarah, this has become an emotional tightrope. She is said to have seen part of the recording and been in the room when her father poured out his heart. Behind the scenes, she's thinking about what it really means to lose not only a father, but also a spiritual leader the world still depends on. Someone on staff told me in confidence, Sarah cried alone after seeing one of the cuts. It wasn't easy for her to accept, but she knew it was time. This isn't just the end of a man's public ministry, it's also the end of an era and a generational shift in the Black church. The torch is being passed from father to daughter, but also from one style of leadership to a whole new wave of spiritual influence. Now the question is, when will the final message be given, and will everyone be ready for it when it does? The crowd is holding their breath, and Sarah is probably preparing for the moment that will change everything for her, the church, and the millions of people who look to T.D. Jake as their spiritual guide. As this emotional journey comes to an end, it's clear that Bishop T.D. Jake's story is more than just one life. It's a legacy that spans decades and touches millions of people around the world. And now, it's a story in transition, fragile but full of hope. It's clear that leadership and illness have taken their toll. Sarah Jakes Roberts' brave admission of her father's changing health and the stress it puts on the family is something we've seen. Behind the scenes, Sarah has been trained to be a spiritual leader, whether she's ready or not. We also told you about the final message, which is a powerful, well-thought-out testament that could change what it means to be a church leader in the 21st century. But what does this all mean for you? It means a new generation of faith leadership for us, the millions of people who are watching, praying, and hoping. In the end, everyone dies, even great people like Bishop Jake. But their lessons, values, and fire can live on. Sarah Jakes Roberts is the next generation of that fire. She connects old and new, tradition and innovation, faith and real life. She's not just supposed to be like her dad, she's also supposed to change the message and bring it to people who don't see themselves in a traditional church pew. She's supposed to be honest about mental health, struggles, failures, and the grace that gets us through it. This change is already happening, whether we're aware of it or not. 2. The power of being open. Part of what makes the story so powerful is how honest Sarah and Bishop Jake have become. Being open about their struggles and being vulnerable as leaders are not signs of weakness but of strength. In a world that needs authenticity, their willingness to talk openly about health, pain, and legacy is a big deal. 3. The burdens of leadership that we don't see. Too often we only see the pulpit, the sermons, and the public persona. But behind every spiritual giant is a person fighting wars we can't see. Bishop Jake's journey reminds us to love and support our leaders, to pray for their strength, and to understand what it's like to carry the weight of millions of people. What's next for the Potter's House? As fans, followers, and believers, we are at a crossroads. Will we stand by Sarah as she takes the lead? Will we welcome change with open arms? Or will we hold on to the past, afraid of what the future might hold? This is a time for faith and community.
Your part in this story. This story has touched many people, giving them hope, pain, or excitement. Now is the time to help the ministry and Sarah. Keep the conversation going by sharing your prayers, stories, and hopes. This story is about more than just a famous preacher and his daughter. It's about faith, strength, leaving a legacy, and love. Bishop T.D. Jakes once said, "God is not finished with me yet." And as his health gets worse, we hold on to that hope, not just for him but also for the legacy he built and the daughter who is ready to carry it on. Join the Potter's House family on Facebook to stay up to date on this story and learn more about ministry leadership. Leave a message, subscribe, and click that bell. What do you think about this? Are you ready for Sarah Jakes Roberts to take over? Let us know what you think below. Thank you for watching. Stay strong in your faith and remember that legacy isn't just one person, it's a movement.